Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. We had a lot going on this weekend between Yoel Romero's Bellator debut that didn't quite go right at the hands of Phil Mr. Wonderful Davis, or Devin the Brown Bear Clark getting his teeth pushed back by Ian Kutalaba, man. It was a great night of fights, and you know, I only got one guy I got to break it down with, my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, the man who's actually catching up to me over here on our scorecard. AJ, brother, what's happening, man? You enjoyed a 4-3 weekend, above 500. I went 2-5, my man. You're catching up. This is 3 weeks in a row that you got the dub on me, man. What is the key to your success? What has fueled this turnaround, my man?
Oh, man. Sometimes, Derick, you got a hot hand, like in poker, my man. And I think the biggest thing, I've said it before a couple weeks ago, short-term memory, my man. Those losses don't matter. These dubs don't matter. We stay undefeated over here, just like the Sugar Show, just like Uncle Chael. You got to keep on pushing the next week, my brother. How was your week, man? How you feeling after your L streak you got going?
Listen, man, I'm feeling like I got to go back to the drawing board. I'm searching for answers over here, man. There was a couple of fights that I already knew. We're going to talk about it, obviously, in a second, folks. But there was a couple of fights where I knew I was taking a chance. I was taking a risk. I've been a little more risky as of late, a little less chalky. And that's led to my downfall, man, because sometimes you see a fight on paper, you play it out in your head, and then you watch the fight, and it's not nearly the way that you had anticipated it to go, man. So that's just the fight game. It's living, it's learning, it's doing it the hard way. But listen, man, we will be back. I will be back. The good news is I put in so much work earlier, throughout the year, man. I built up a nice little padded lead, so I got room for error. So that's where we're coming in now. Nonetheless, man, before we get into this stuff, AJ, man, we record these things on Sunday. They come out on Monday. We got football today, man. I just want to know what are the odds of your Vikes picking up a win today, man? We got to get a dub on the board. My Raiders is 1-0. Vikes is 0-1, man. At the end of the season, we're going to have to do a comparison. What team is going to have the better record? What do you think?
Ooh, man, I'm going with the Vikes on this one, brother. I've been saying for a long time, you put the Raiders in Vegas with their actual thing, man, they might be winning the Super Bowl. Yeah. I've been saying it for a couple years now. Now that they're finally playing in the Vegas Dome, man, I think it's a good shot. But I'm rolling with the Vikes, man. Skull all day. We're bringing it home tonight, and it's been we've never had a Super Bowl, and might be a while till we get one. But we know we winning today for sure.
Well, listen, man, I always root for the people that are just loyal to the squad, man. Raiders aren't the most popular team in terms of victory-wise, maybe fan base. Vikes kind of the same thing, but just stay loyal to it, and one day it will come, man. I mean, who just won recently, man? The Buccaneers, right? The Buccaneers hadn't won one in 20 damn years. Anyways, man, we're not here for some football talk. Let's get into a little bit of recap, my man. So I want to talk about, first and foremost, I said it in the beginning, Yoel Romero's Bellator debut was spoiled at the hands of Phil Davis, man, and I just wanted to bring up this note. I think the UFC, AJ, even though it might not make sense to us, I think the UFC might just know when their product is finished, might just know when their product is a little washed up. Yoel Romero, his wars with Robert Whittaker, all the epic battles he had in the UFC, goes over to Bellator and drops a very kind of lopsided decision to Phil Davis. Got out-wrestled by Phil Davis, man, and this is the Cuban wrestler known as, the Soldier of God. So just give me your take on that one, man. Do you think as fans we get too attached to these figureheads known as, Damian Maia, Yoel Romero, all the OGs, Carlos Condit, happy retirement. We're going to talk about him in a second. Do you think the UFC already, they just know and they're doing it, business is business, and we just a little too attached as fans?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that one, Derick. I think it's a little bit more of we're a little starstruck, man. Every time I think of Yoel Romero, I think of this big, bruiser who's basically unknockoutable, just has an absolute granite chin. He's a monster in there. And you kind of live with that idea of these people, So I think the UFC is just straight business. They're playing it right. They're playing it smart by actually knowing the expiration date of these fighters. And as fans, it's hard not to look up to these people when they're in there, putting it all on the line. But it is sad to see when they go to another organization that's supposed to be a little bit under and then get outperformed and they're laying goose eggs like Yoel Romero, man. It's hard to see the Cuban Missile Crisis get out-wrestled. But, every dog has his day and every day will come eventually. That's what they say, Derick. So, man, I think UFC is smart about it at least.
I'm with you, and I wish that the Cuban Missile Crisis was Yoel Romero's nickname. That's our guy Julian Marquez, but it's all right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They both Cuban. It's all right.
Soldier of God, man. My bad.
We'll count it. We'll count it. But yeah, man, no, I think that's accurately stated, man. It's tough for us, but obviously when you love a fighter and you love the, you know, aura of them and all that, we get a little blinded by that and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? But listen, man, I just say at 44, 45 years old, man, I just don't want to see Yoel Romero maybe like say, all right, well, I'm not going to do this Bellator stuff. I'm going to go into celebrity boxing, man. This is just where the slope gets slippery, man. We're going to have to call it eventually. So with that being said, man, AJ, you know what we got to do best here. We got to do a little bit of photo recap, and this is basically the first photo. So I just wanted to first talk about this picture, right? Yoel Romero getting cracked with the big right hand by Phil Davis. But look at Yoel Romero in the black shorts, got victory on the front. He's in the blue Bellator gloves, man. I just want to know, what kind of look is that to you? Did you ever anticipate seeing something like this? Does it look odd to you?
Oh yeah, it looks super odd, man. I never once pictured to see the bees on Yoel Romero's hands at all, man.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Maybe it's hard time accepting change, whatever the case may be. But we already basically talked about the saga that is Yoel Romero. But I wanted to lead to this next picture. It was a two-parter, man. This is kind of the out wrestling that I was talking about, man. Like, I never really envisioned somebody doing that to Yoel Romero, being as explosive as he is. And this was in the span of a 3-round fight, man. So what it comes down to at the end of the day is, you know, Father Time is undefeated, my man. There's only one person, I think, right, that we can talk about maybe is on the precipice of being able to defeat Father Time, and that man is Fedor Emelianenko, because that man is about to fight again in Moscow, for Bellator, if everything goes accordingly and COVID doesn't destroy everything once again. But listen, man, shout out to the Soldier of God, but really shout out to Mr. Wonderful, bouncing back from a huge loss to, I believe it was Vadim Nemkov was his last loss. So he might somehow, some way be able to catapult himself back into the Bellator Light Heavyweight Grand Prix. We'll see what happens. All right, so as we were saying, man, happy retirement to the natural born killer, NBK Carlos Condit, man. I want to ask you this. Did this come as a surprise to you at all, AJ?
Not as much as a couple of the other retirements that we've seen lately, especially like Joey Benavidez and other stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I guess it came to me as a surprise, as I didn't necessarily see it coming, but I did kind of feel like it was about that time. You know, Natural Born Killer's been doing it for a very long time, hasn't necessarily been in the limelight as of late. And I'm a fan of when they actually choose to retire instead of making the choice for them by Uncle Dana and they get chopped, you know. So I'm glad to see it, but still a little bit shocked. What about you?
You know what, man? I'm not super surprised once I just looked into the numbers a little bit, right? I was like, listen, the man was, I believe he was on a 3-fight win streak before dropping his last loss to Max Payne Griffin, right? Who was a tough outing. I don't care who he's fighting. He's a tough man to deal with. But he finishes his career at 32-14, 9-10 in the UFC. And I want to ask you if you think that's had something to do with it. When he realized, okay, I just went south of 500 in the big show where it actually counts, where he made his name. Yes, he's a WEC legend. You know what I mean, and all that good stuff. But you go to the UFC, you drop under 500. That's when he says, all right, man, I think we're gonna call it quits. Let's not taint the legacy. What do you think?
That's almost more surprising to me, because I just didn't have his numbers up. That the Natural Born Killer was 9-10 in the UFC. That's it probably did have something to do with it, because in my mind, anytime I think of Carlos Condit, I think of this savage that's going to keep it pushing no matter what.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, smart move by him.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's too many times where Carlos Condit has been dropped in his fights, but I will say against Max Griffin, that was one of the very few times he has been dropped in his career, man. So that's probably the other realization, is saying, like, dude, I don't get dropped, and I got dropped here. I don't know, man. Once again, I do agree with you. I do think that was wise decision-making for Carlos Condit. Don't let it, the decision be made for you. Just do it yourself. And listen, man, I hope he moves into coaching or something like that, man, and pays it forward. And, I think that's just the right thing to do. At the end of the day, we got to celebrate the man's career. Shout out to Carlos Condit. Only the real ones know. I will say, AJ, we are starting to see, as time, moves on, time doesn't wait for anybody. We're seeing our generation, kind of get passed up, right? All the OGs of the game that we grew up on is all either retired or, not really doing too hot right now. So with that being said, AJ, we talked about it a little bit, or we talked about the event a little bit, but this has happened last weekend, and I wanted to just pull up the picture, man, because it looks crazy, and I want to know if you ever anticipated to see something like this, man. Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz in their boxing match, which was the undercard of that atrocious Evander Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort, just shenanigans that we talked about last week, man. The Spider lacing him up in the boxing gloves. He got the boots on, man. He looked fresh. He got the swag. He got the all the vibes and all that good stuff, man. It kind of looks like he was made to do this thing. At the end of the day, he's also on the ugly side of 40, man. You know, boxing up Tito Ortiz with the flame shorts. What do you think about this photo?
I never expected it, Derick. I don't know if it's just because I'm such a hardcore fan of like mixed martial arts. I never expected the jump over. I kind of hoping there would be a jump over of like organizations, not necessarily multiple sports. But it is crazy to see him with the boots on and the pillows on the hands, man. But I gotta say, Anderson Silva does look good in the gold and black, man.
He does, absolutely. And, you know, the one thing he always talked about wanting when he was at the prime of his career in the UFC was a boxing match versus Roy Jones Jr. And I do not think that's out of the picture, man. I don't want to see it, but I don't think it's out of the picture. So it's something to think about. This next photo, though, man, listen, how does one go from the Huntington Beach bad boy to failed man of the public, failed politics guy, to sleep on the motherfucking canvas in the flame shorts, AJ? How does this happen? How do we allow the celebrities we love and you know what I mean, we grew up on, how do we allow them to do something like this? Some are calling it a dive, excuse me with my stumbles, but at the same time, man, do you take that much of a hit to your ego, to your pride, just for a little bit of money and for, you know, tell me what you think.
I would hope not, Derick. I would hope not. I would hope you would, as a man, you would say, you know, my name is my word, and you know all that pride goes into it. But a lot of people are saying it was a dive. A lot of people are saying it was a dive, and you know, at the end of the day, money does run this world, unfortunately. But I don't know what's a worse look, to be honest. Sleeping headfirst on the canvas or still thinking that flame shorts are cool. And it's already 2021, my man. Yeah, either way, rough look.
Blast from the past, man. Giving me like 2002 vibes, you know what I'm saying? But all right, man, let's get into some of the best photos of actually UFC Vegas 37 right here, man. We looking like a Joanna Jacek clone over here, man. Our guy Numansa, Joaquin Buckley. He got the dub, but it came at a high cost, man. He has a pill, you know, the size of a potato on his forehead, man. He took a big lumping, but I will say, man, dude fought through adversity. We'll talk about in more depth his actual matchup in just 1 second, man. But listen, I want to know, out of curiosity, AJ, if you had to estimate or you had to guess, how do you think you relieve the swelling in that, man? Do you drain it? What are we doing with this hematoma?
Oh man, I would imagine you drain it. There was a time where I had one of those as well, and you can feel the skin growing from inside, and it hurts, man. It hurts a lot. So I would think drain it or maybe ice it, but I don't know. Luckily for mine, it like I just cut it and it popped.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I was getting beat on though. Thank God.
Yeah, we got to put the qualifier out there, right? So let me ask you this, man. Numansa, Joaquin Buckley, was very close to having this hematoma on his head and losing a pretty decisive 3-round match via decision to Antonio Arroyo. Do you think that if he would have lost this and he would have had this hematoma on his head, you know, we're just doing an alternate timeline right here, man. Do you think that confidence would be at an all-time low? You go from getting knocked out to losing that, having the hematoma, looking like Joanna Jacek and all that stuff, man. Doesn't really have too much love for the media and any of this stuff. I feel like he would go into outcast mode. We told you we both talked about how much pressure was on Joaquin Buckley going into this fight. He overcame the adversity, but I just want to know, in an alternate timeline, do you think this would have spelled new lows, like lower lows than we've seen for Joaquin Buckley in his career?
I think it could have. I also think it could have given him a little bit of confidence in the fact that he could take those shots and not get knocked out like he did against Chirico. You know, it could have gone either way with that one. Him thinking like, man, this is I'm on a rough loss streak, or like, well, you know, I did a little bit better. It's hard to say, but definitely either way, if he did lose, it would have been a rough time for Numansa.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'll tell you what, man. He got to keep this picture. Remember, hey, I do not need that to happen again, man. Keep my hands up. He ate flush kicks to the head, knees to the face, the whole nine, man. But all right, we'll go a little quicker on the next couple photos, man. This is just a beautiful picture, right? This is Stefan the Don landing the big left hand on Mike Slow Rodriguez, man. Talk about the chin on Mike Rodriguez real quick.
Man, to be able to handle the shots from Stefan the Don and Chukwe, man, next level. That he might be the next Yoel Romero chin we seen got going on, man. Absolute granite, just eating things for dinner, man. It was very impressive for Mike Slow Rodriguez out there, man. What you think?
I would have to agree with you, man. He said it in the post-fight presser. He was all like, listen, man, everything I was throwing at him, he just kept moving forward, man. He was like, it was kind of crazy to see. At the end of the day, he was like, I go in there, I try to finish you, you know? So for him to be able to withstand that, he's a tough man. I just like the photo overall, folks. You see like the red is popping, the blue tape on Tafon and Chukwe. When you zoom in, you can see the blood leaving Mike Rodriguez's mouth. I think this is one he got to get framed, throw up in the house, man. All right, AJ, this next photo, this is the return of Raquel Pennington. I had a nice little wager on her. I think I put the wager on when she was about like minus 125, man. And I said, listen, this is former number 4 in the women's flyweight division, or women's bantamweight division, excuse me. You're not going to get minus 115 numbers on her ever again, really, in the near future, man, because I'll tell you, she should have been probably a little bit of a heavier favorite, even though it was a close fight. Nonetheless, Raquel Pennington landing the mean right hand, got this is like the perfect, like when you would play Fight Night back in the day and you get the knockout and it goes slow motion and all that on Pani Kianzad. The point here, AJ, is just tell me the return of Raquel Pennington on this one, man. I mean, the future is bright, right? It's almost like she picked up where she left off, man. She didn't skip a beat, right?
Man, the future is very bright. I was honestly expecting a little bit worse of an outcome or of a little bit worse of a showing from Rocky. But, man, she came out swinging, man. Raquel Pennington, dude, did what she does. And like you said, didn't look like she didn't skip a beat, which is pretty nice to see, especially since she had rough leavings or rough cuttings from her last one. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. So for this next photo, AJ, right here, oftentimes you'll see two fighters raise their hands as the fight is over, both thinking that they won. And in this situation, they kind of did, right? We had a unanimous draw in the Gustavo Lopez, versus Alateng Haile fight, man. It was a fun fight back and forth. I said this could have been fight of the night. It was a little disappointing because they didn't really turn it on until round 3. But at the end of the day, man, what do you take out of a draw, man? I have one question as of recently in terms of draws, because it's never just come to mind. Do you only get half your pay for a draw? Because you got your show money, but you didn't win, so you wouldn't necessarily get a win bonus, right?
I would imagine so.
Yeah,
like contractually, that sounds right. You didn't get the win. I've never thought of that either, but I would imagine, yeah, you only get half the pay. I would think Alateng Haile has to be pissed at himself or his coaches, especially he was winning. He would have won the fight if he didn't get the point deducted.
But I'm glad the point got deducted, man, because we need more of these referees enforcing the cage grabs, man. He did it just so blatantly. Like, he was holding on for dear life on the cage, man. And
like 5 times, too, man. He was like Keith Peterson, no nonsense Keith Peterson. He let it go a little. There was a little bit of nonsense in there. Yeah. But after the end of the day, he was like, nah, all right, this is it. I'm taking your points.
Oh, yeah, it's very important, man, just because, like, when you're getting that takedown on somebody and they're holding on for dear life, and then you gas yourself out, now you can't get the takedown, then you get reversed or whatever the case may be, man. At the end of the day, I think the big, sticking point for here is language barrier, right? Because they were saying, hey, get the translator over here, let him know. The translator was like, he knows, he can understand you, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's like, if he can understand, why you keep grabbing the cage, bro? At the end of the day, yeah, point deduction by Alateng Haile, or from Alateng Haile, did eventually lose him the fight. So we can move on from that one. All right, man, I just got 2 more. So I got this right here, man. This is just something that I think that you and me love to see, man. What happens when you talk shit, man? You're going to have to see that person. And when you see them, it's not going to be nice. And when they put the hands on you, when they choke you, when they make you tap for dear life, and then they're above you screaming on you like, where was that ass whooping you had for me? My name is Anthony motherfucking Smith. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. This is like street vengeance right here. Tell me what you think of this.
Man, Derick, I love this, man. Talk shit, get hit. Especially, you don't want none. Don't start none. Like the saying goes, man. And Spann was talking a little bit of shit. I love seeing, and in the pre-show, I called Anthony Smith a nice gangster. That nice went right away. He went full gangster mode in this fight, and he was there to prove it. I love this, man. I was screaming when I saw this. I looked away for a little bit because I was like, oh, yeah, he got the win. Next thing I know, there's like a scrum in the cage. They're bringing out security. I was like, holy shit, what happened? Oh, man, I love to see it happen, man. This made me very happy.
Absolutely, man. He went on like a 30-second tirade in the post-fight speech that all got blanked out on ESPN, right? So it's like, oh, they're doing the post-fight interview. Cool. 30 seconds later, like, okay, I heard absolutely nothing, but all right, shout out. And then the last thing, it's a little bit of a palate cleanser right here, man. The fight game is not for the faint of heart, man. This is Devin Clark. His teeth pushed back from Ian Kutalaba knee. And AJ, man, in his corner, Devin Clark, the brown bear, asked his pops, asked his folks, hey, man, what y'all think? My teeth is pretty bad, right? They was just looking at him like, hey, man, if you done, you done. Like, just let us know. And he says, fuck it, let's go. It's surgery anyways. I don't care. I might as well go in there and see what's up with this third round. He ended up losing the fight still. It was a little more valiant effort. Came out a little more hot in that one. Clearly, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But just tell me what you think about that picture, man. Is that worth half of your pay? You know what I'm saying? Coming in there, getting your teeth pushed back.
I mean, I imagine the UFC is gonna throw him some nice money to get that one fixed, because I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
That's your teeth, man. You only get a very few limited of those, and those are rough. Luckily, it's his bottom teeth though. This happened to my homie Greg one time. We were in a street scrum, and he got his his front teeth pushed back, and that always, I thought that was the worst teeth injury I've ever seen. Never want to get punched in the mouth smiling. And for Brown Bear Clark, man, it hurt because he caught a fat knee to the mouth, and you just saw it. Like, yeah, that one hurts.
Absolutely. And folks, I'm sure that if you notice, you watch the broadcast, you watch these ESPN events, these UFC events, and you'll see the fighters on the broadcast, you'll notice they all have the most stunning, immaculate teeth, right? No, those things aren't natural, man. We got veneers all day long because all of their teeth are getting fucked up, just like some hockey players or something. But all right, folks, you know what time it is. It is Fighter of the Night time, AJ, man. So, we're going to talk about the best fighter's performance, the best narrative, the overall totality of what they did in the cage, man. Mix it all up, jumble it all up, and produce the fighter of the night. Not the fight of the night, folks. We get that often. And there actually was no fight of the night for this one. 4 performance bonuses across the board, but no fighter of the night. But we got the fighter of the night. AJ, you go first. Who's yours?
Man, Derick, my fighter of the night this week is somebody I doubted a lot in this one going forward. Probably the fighter I doubted the most. Maybe there was another one, but we'll talk about that one in a bit. But I'm going Ian Kutalaba on this one, man. Everything we saw from what his performance was in his last fight, all the downfalls, all the pitfalls, all the stuff that we thought was going to be taken advantage of by his opponent, man, he looked good. His gas tank was solid. He stayed a lot more calm than I was expecting Jan to stay, but he still stayed aggressive in the whole fight, man. I really liked what I saw at Ian Kutalaba going forward, and it just proved that he's able to grow a little bit as a fighter. Even after the fight, he was saying, yo, man, I respect you. It was a good scrap, all that stuff. So it was interesting to see, especially because you're not used to seeing that from the Hulk, You're not used to seeing the Hulk be a genuine good dude, especially in the cage. But man, his performance as well as his after Octagon interview both made me realize that he's able to grow a lot. And what we saw going forward in the fight, or in all of his past experiences, he's able to actually learn from and change, which to me made a huge impact that we're able to see that from somebody like Ian Kutalaba, man. So that's why I'm giving him my fighter of the night. It was interesting to see because I definitely did not expect this one coming. I definitely expected him to fall to his normal pitfalls, man. So it was good to see. I was very excited that for Ian Kutalaba to actually make the big change as possible, man. It was cool. Who's your fighter of the night, Derick?
All right, my man. Well, that was a very good pick for fighter of the night, I must admit, man. Patient Ian Kutalaba is becoming a mythical fighter of its own, like Blonde Brunson or Patient Francis Ngannou and all that stuff, right? But so my fighter of the night is going to be the man you mentioned earlier, Tafon the Don Chukwe, man. And the reason why he is my fighter of the night is because, listen, folks, in the pre-show, all I could talk about the man was, hey, he got the brakes beat off of him by the Iron Turtle, Jun Young Park, in his last bout, man. It's tough when you get demoralized, especially when the pitfalls of that demoralized loss come from your cardio, man, or a lack of your cardio, I guess I should say. So for him to be able to turn it around, throw so much volume in this fight against an established UFC veteran like Mike Rodriguez, a man who knows how to squeak out a win, for him to put the power on him, the volume on him, the pressure on him, the wrestling on him, there was no area in the fight where Tafon Chukwe looked bad. He actually looked like a devastator in this fight. And for that reason, I now have readjusted my evaluation of what I consider this man's ceiling to be or his trajectory to be. The big caveat here is that both of his fights previously in the UFC were at 185 pounds. Now he moves up to 205, and it's kind of that Yoel Romero treatment where, all right, man, I'm not killing myself to get down to 185. I got a little more juice, so I could throw a little bit more. Come round 2, round 2.5, round 3, I'm not sitting here dying, hyperventilating and all that. You know what I'm saying? So for Tafon Nchukwu, man, it's like, honestly, feels like a Francis Ngannou mold almost, finding his own at 205. Almost Rumble Johnson-esque. I think the man is going to spell a lot of trouble for a lot of these fighters coming up, man, especially the ones who are trying to look their way into the top 15, man. Overall, he could have took this adversity from his last loss and, been a self-doubter, man, lost his confidence and all that, but I think it was the opposite. I think that lit a fire under his ass that said, no, man, we got to get after it. I got to fix some things in my camp. He talked about it in his post-fight presser. So all in all, Tafon the Don Nchukwu is my fighter of the night, man. So we got a couple good ones. Ian Kutalaba, Tafon Nchukwu, man. Raquel Pennington was a close second for me, AJ. And before we move on, I just want to ask, did you have anybody who was, you don't even got to tell me why, but any name in particular that was like a close second to you that could have made the cut that wasn't Kutalaba?
Arman Sarukian, my man. That was a very close one, man. We'll get to that in a bit, but I got a lot of humble pie to eat over here.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we have changed our ways on that pick right there, my man. But all right, let's talk about a fight, AJ, that we both hit on the head right here. We both picked Joaquin Buckley on this one, man. I think we probably had different methodologies for it to win. I think I had Buckley with a TKO in like round 2 or something like that. He gets it in round 3, but this was a fight that he was basically losing the majority of the fight. And the biggest reason why I think that occurred is because he was fighting out at distance. Even though he had longer reach than Antonio Arroyo, man. Arroyo's kicks, his distance management, man, his mirroring was pretty phenomenal, man. And do you know what I mean when I say his mirroring? They talked about it on the broadcast a little bit.
Oh, yeah. If you move a little left, he's moving off, cutting you off, making the lead foot, especially when you're fighting opposite stance fighter. I believe they were Southpaw versus Orthodox. Mm-hmm. You want that lead foot on the outside, and every time he's moving, you move a little bit too.
Exactly, man. So it's perfect right there because it's like, honestly, they teach you that in boxing, right? You want to be literally mirroring your opponent. That way you can maintain. So it's like for Arroyo, he kept perfect kicking range the entire fight, man, which is basically how he was able to lead the dance. My question to you, man, is Joaquin Buckley's power just ridiculous to the level of, doesn't matter at what point in the fight he could put you down? Or do you think it had a little bit to do with just a perfect timing? He throws a big, I believe it was a right hook that just happened to catch Arroyo like on the back of his head. You know what I mean? Like unintentional. Not like he was trying to do it, but it just kind of like skimmed him on the back of the head. That seems like what dropped him initially, but then it was like an uppercut that really floored him and put him out there, man. There was a couple of those behind the head shots that happened unintentionally tonight, but I just want to know, man, you can't legally hit somebody in the back of the head intentionally for a reason. So do you think that had a little bit to do with it?
Yeah, I would say it had a little bit to do with it. And it's rough when you got both people coming forward on the attack and you throw that hook to hit the chin, but they move forward just a little bit and it hits them in the back. Yeah, it's going to do a little bit of damage. That brain stem is back there doing its job. You tap that a little bit and people are going to go to sleep. But I do think it was the uppercut right after the hook that actually put him under, because you saw him going to go a little limp with it whenever he got hit with the uppercut. Yeah, it definitely had a little bit to do with it, but Joaquin Buckley, his power is there. It's not like he's just, throwing noodle punches or anything. Joaquin Buckley has some snap to him.
So you had said something when we was going back and forth in a little, chat that we got, right? You were saying that Joaquin Buckley is, or actually maybe you weren't saying this. Somebody was saying this. Joaquin Buckley is a true promoter's wet dream or something like that. You probably didn't say that at all, so apologies about that. But basically, Joaquin Buckley is a promoter's wet dream in the sense of the man is always coming for violence, win or lose. It doesn't matter where he is at in the fight. The man is trying to come and take the other person's head off, man. And if you're a promoter, you want this man in your promotion. I don't care if it's Bellator, UFC, PFL, regardless, man. Do you agree with that sentiment, man? Is Joaquin Buckley like a true company man in a weird way? Because he doesn't present himself as a company man, but the way he fights is pretty favorable to the company.
Yeah, Derick. I agree with the sentiment 100%. I don't think he's necessarily the company man as much as like a Stephen Thompson is, or even an Alexander Smith is. He's Anthony. Anthony Smith, excuse me. I had brain fart there. But he's kind of like that outsider. You know the movies where like the outsider, like the rebel comes to save the day. Kind of the same sort of aspect as Joaquin Buckley. Not necessarily your shined up guy that's going to be doing press conferences or going to answer the phone all the time. He might ignore your call. He might, have a little bit of a guff to his side, not necessarily shined up, but when he does answer the call, he's gonna come to fight, and he's gonna he's gonna put full pressure forward, and he's kind of a savage, man. I like Joaquin Buckley for that. He has a little bit of that like B squad mentality, if that makes sense. Not necessarily like B squad as in he's like bad or he's not in the top dog or anything, but that he's been put on the practice squad. And you come across that line, he's gonna hit you hard because he's been shaded a little bit. He's got that kind of grit to him. That's why I like him a lot.
It's almost kind of like Cowboy Cerrone style, right? Just kind of, on the edge type of guy, you know what I mean? Just like a little out there, right? My question to you ultimately about this matchup, man, is one, what do you think Joaquin Buckley learned about himself in this match? Do you think that his confidence is going through the roof because he knows he can overcome adversity truly? I mean, listen, all 5 of his last victories have come via KO, and all of his losses have come via KO recently, you know what I mean? The man is not a fan of going to a decision. What do you think he learned about himself in this one?
I'm hoping that he learned that he needs to go to a ground game attack, my man. Absolutely. That's what I'm hoping he learns, because it's basically non-existent. Like, if he would have been able to get on the inside, put the peekaboo on a Hoyo and then get on the inside, duck under, get a takedown, or even like fake a takedown and then go up top and start banging, I think it would have been a lot better for him than staying at range. Now, that being said, I really do. I think he learned that he's not made of glass anymore, because that Alicio de Chirico was just a kind of a fluke knockout. So he was able to actually see, I still got it. I can still hang in here with the best of them. But I hope he learned that he needs a ground game going forward, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was saying, right? It's the kind of that ego of like, I'm just going to box you up, man. I think there was one point in the fight where he did try to wrestle. It didn't really work out. Like, Ahoyo's got good hips, man. He's got good sprawls. So what does it mean to you, lastly, before we move on, man? What does it mean to you that in his post-fight presser, he used that time, that platform to say, hey, Dana White, UFC, do not cut this man Ahoyo. He will be back. This man is a killer. What does that mean to you?
I really like that about Buckley, man. They always, Uncle Chael always says it's the dudes who get to the top that reach a hand down for you that you got to appreciate, and that's really what it is. Buckley knows that Ahoyo, and Ahoyo is an absolute killer. At range, he was doing very, very well. But to see that the guy we were talking about just a little bit ago, that's kind of on the outskirts, kind of a nomad of sorts, kind of the X factor, or like that, the offset guy, what I'm talking about, that he's able to reach out for one of the homies as well. Bro, that's what you want to see right there. That's good looks. And Joaquin Buckley, he might get a little of heat back in, I think it's like New Orleans or wherever he's from, St. Louis, whatever it is. But he's a good dude right there. He's looking out for his moms and stuff, so he's got a good heart.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Missouri, man, because there's that beef with him in the Glory MMA, the James Krause camp, right? It's funny that you said nomad, because that's kind of the story about him, right? Word is he gets kicked out of gyms left and right, so he's just always going to different, kind of like Sean Strickland, you know what I mean? Just journeyman like that. But all right, big win for Joaquin Buckley, man, and he did close as a favorite, got the big dub, and got the performance of the night bonus, man. So shout out to him. So for this next one, AJ, man, I was on the precipice of like, listen, man, I'm trying to tell you, this is why we pick who we pick, right? But your man, he staged an epic comeback, and a comeback for the ages, man. Nate Mayhem Maness showed why his nickname is Maness, or is Mayhem, excuse me. It's because when he gets dropped, man, he said it himself. He says, I got put out, I got woke back up, and that brought out the brawler in me. I was able to let my hands go. Boom, what do you know? Gravely, who fell in love with his hands, got put out, man. I need to ask you this. Is it not more impressive that Nate Maness, a man who doesn't have the most UFC experience, who only has one loss on his career, he moves to 14-1 now, got dropped for the first time in his career via headshot, right? He's only been dropped once before via body shot, wakes back up and doesn't doubt himself, instead goes to killer mode. Like, is that not impressive to you? Because most of the time, what do you hear? Someone who hasn't suffered much adversity, they get dropped and then they start falling apart. They don't know what to do because they're not winning. What do you think?
Man, that is so impressive, Derick. That's what it is to be a fighter, too. And that's that mindset that we always talk about, man. That's that David Goggins shit where like, oh, you hit me? Oh, we in it now. Like, we seeing red now. We going to fight. Now it's an actual scrap. we always talk about on this show how the first round is kind of a match, kind of an exhibition, if you will. And then the second and third are really when the dog comes out. And we saw Nate Maness get cracked hard, and that dog came out. And it kind of goes a little bit to what I was saying about Gravely, where if he would have had a little bit more power to him, because he's very much a sniper, and he had a perfect shot on Maness that put him out. But if he had a little bit more power, he might have been able to actually sleep him. Where Nate Maness came back and he didn't, he felt that crack and came back up like, oh, okay, now it's time, man. You love to see it. That's exactly what you want in a fighter, especially somebody who's kind of younger in the UFC and doesn't necessarily have his stripes yet. It's going to be a good comings for Nate Maness here in the future, man. What you think?
Well, I agree with you, man. I do think that this kind of put him on the map a little bit. Like, do you so I'm gonna go in a little bit more, but just really quickly, do you think that this elevated his stock that like now people are gonna be like, oh, that guy Nate Maness, remember him? Or do you think this is still such a small scale bout that he's got a couple more fights before he gets up there?
I could see needing a couple more fights to the casuals. But a lot of the hardcore fans, man, they know Tony Gravely is just an absolute dog in there. So that elevated his Nate Maness' stock a lot, in my book anyway.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you, man. He did close as a plus 160 underdog, man. So he pulled the upset here. This is his fourth win in a row. This one got performance of the night bonus as well. And I think it's not just because of it was a crazy comeback, but knowing Dana White and, the UFC brass being like, oh, you did that to Gravely? Okay, a wrestler like that? Okay. Now, let me ask you about this, man. Why do you think wrestlers who end up having good hands always fall to the detriment of not using what got them to the big show, man? There's one person who has not faltered yet, but is kind of moving in that trajectory, and that's the Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman. You know what I'm saying? But he's a different caliber, a different level. Tony Gravely at 135 pounds, where the fists are flying, they're wicked fast. You know what I mean? Got crazy pop behind him. I mean, a striker like Nate Maness, he knew what he was getting into fighting a striker, and still wanted to stand up just because he got overzealous and he dropped him earlier. Why do you think this continues to happen, AJ?
I think it has to be the media presentation of it. Everybody hears, Humpson out there. Nobody wants to be like brown-haired Humpson. Mm-hmm. And so it's really kind of like a presence of mind where you think like, if I wrestle this guy, nobody's going to like it. I'm not going to get the performance bonus. Everybody's going to talk shit. But I cracked him one time. Maybe I can do it again. And you kind of really start to fall in love with that aspect. And I mean, when you're throwing, knocking people out, it's a lot more flashy too than when you're just wrestling people, especially if that's your style. Everyone's expecting it. So.
No, I'm with you, man. I do think that in his next fight, we will see a lot more wrestling from Tony Gravely, man. I think he will have to double down on it. And also, he came off a knockout in his last fight, man. So it's kind of in a way where Davey Grant came off of those 2 back-to-back knockouts. Then he fought... who'd he fight? Chito Vera, right? And Chito Vera just put a beating on him. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one of those situations where you fall in love with it, man. You got to use those other tools as well, man. At the end of the day, this was a huge, huge win for Nate Maness, man. I can't even overstate how big of a win this is. He says Tony Gravely was a class act. They went, shared words after the fight and all that good stuff, man. And listen, I'm expecting big things from Nate Maness. I want to see him matched up with someone nice. He says that he wants to get the fight with Adrian Yanez, even though Adrian Yanez is now booked to fight Davey Grant. So we'll see what happens with the winner of that. Yanez did tweet out and saying eventually they will lace them up together and share the octagon. So big win for Mayhem Maness, man. This one is a little chalky, right, AJ? I called it. Dude was a minus 700, minus 800 favorite at close or whatever the case may be, and he showed why, man. He got Christos Giagos out of there very, very quickly, speedy, efficiently. It was a TKO, round 1, dropped him, finished him with some ground and pound. But Arman Tsarukyan found his first finish in the UFC, and he looked like the complete package, man, against an established UFC veteran in the Spartan, Christos Giagos, man. Give me your takeaway on this matchup.
Well, first, Derick, before I eat my big slice of humble pie, I have to ask you, were you surprised to see Giagos with the first takedown?
You know what, man? In all honesty, no, because I knew that the wrestler, the American wrestler, right, is going to say, I'm going to establish how this fight is going to take place. I did think it was a little surprising that he was able to grab Tsarukyan at all, because Tsarukyan against Makhachev was able to really get out of a lot of those takedowns and whatnot, man. But Christos Giagos is a vet, man, and if there's anything, he could pull the Kevin Holland and say, at least I took you down. I could at least have that moral victory like he did on Brunson. I took you down. He's like, yeah, but you got your ass whooped, but I still took you down. It's all right. So long answer, or short answer long, you know what I mean? No, I'm not very surprised, but it was a little surprising.
I myself was a little surprised at that one, especially because Sarukian shot the takedown and Christos Yagos hit him with those nice hips and put him down. On my side, I was over here like screaming like, oh shit, this is it. This is it. I told you he's a live dog. And then I had to eat my pie, like I said, my man, because Sarukian made it look easy, bro. It was in my notes, I had Sarukian's hands as improving. Bro, I was absolutely corrected. I got I got shown the error of my ways, and homeboy's striking is absolutely crisp, my man. He was thudding Yagos even in the chat that we were talking about. I was saying, man, those sound like they hurt. Like those sound like the way Sarukian's hitting him. It sounds like he's really thudding him, man. It sounds horrible. Sarukian's a real deal. There's no joke. Sarukian is a real deal. I'm excited to see who he has to fight in the future because he looked good. Besides that very first takedown, but even after that, he recovered very, very well. Able to flip the script and then put his hands to work, which I did not expect coming at all. I expected Sarukian just to be grinding it out, wrestling status all day long. But the way he was cracking, man, it was very impressive. And like I said, my bad to the Sarukian fans out there. I know Russia's they're real heavy. They like their people, and you can see, I got the little Russian dolls back here. I got the Yushanka. I got the Amelia up there. I got my love for my Russian homies, but yeah, I doubted him on that one, and it came up wrong, man. So I love to see where Sarukian's going in the future.
I mean, listen, man, we got big fights coming up on the horizon. He wants Dan Hooker. He wants Tony Ferguson. I mean, he wants top 10, top 5 guys, man, and I think that he should get it. I would like to see in the future a rematch with him and Islam Makhachev because, like I said, Arman Sarukian, man, I think that was that first test of adversity that really slapped some sense into him to be like, okay, man, no, we got to do something about this, right? So everybody else, man, you better be able to strike. You better know how to wrestle because I'll tell you, man, Sarukian is known for having that on glue, white on rice style. He wants to smother you and just be on you, right? This time around, he says, I'm going to show you the hands. And I do think that this was the perfect opponent to do it against because Yagos does not have the greatest hands in the world and he gets hit a lot, man. And, he wasn't able to establish his game plan, but I'm not putting too much of a knock on Christos Yagos in this one. I do think it will be back. So this was a huge, huge win for Arman Sarukian. First stoppage win in the UFC, like I said, and a performance bonus, right? So we had 3 straight fights with 3 performance bonuses in a row, man. So it goes to show the opening of this main card was pretty legit, man. So huge win for Sarukian. But you got anything else on that one, AJ?
No, man. Like I said, I was very impressed with Sarukian. That's it.
Yeah, and then if you me, man, listen, man. Y'all must have forgot. I told y'all. Come on, what are we doing here? Listen to me sometimes. Right now, I'm joking. Folks, before we move on, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, all the good stuff, man. Rate us on Apple Podcasts, right? 5 stars. You know what I'm saying? All gold across the board. You dig? If you like the analysis, if you like what we putting up over here, man, we do this week in and week out. So hit us up at bloodywaterpodcast.com on Instagram at bloodywaterpodcast and on Twitter at bloodywaterpod. You know what time it is. We'll be here this week, next week, and probably the week after that, man, because this is what we do. And speaking of what we do, man, I did want to hit. You hit on the Maness win. I picked Gravely on that one, so I got that one wrong. I hit on the Sarukian pick. You picked Yagos on that one, so just to update where we're at. And you hit on this one, man. You hit hard on this one. Ariane Lipski, man. She got a unanimous decision victory over Mandy Bohm. And you know what, AJ? I got to eat some crow here. And the crow that I got to eat is that, listen, you were absolutely right. Mandy Bohm looked like absolutely a regional fighter on this one. It looked like the moment was far too bright for her. And Ariane Lipski, what she lacks in technical striking capabilities, she makes up for in experience, in poise, in I'm just going to bite down on my mouthpiece and I'm going to beat your ass. That's what I saw from Ariane Lipski, the queen of violence who lived up to her nickname this weekend, man. She got a unanimous decision victory, her 5th decision win in 14 career victories. So she's putting people out. She's submitting them. She's knocking them out. But the way that she kind of just dictated the pace against Mandy Bohm was a little surprising to me, man. Did you expect a finish out of this one, man? It seemed like she had her on the ropes a couple times.
I was expecting a finish, Derick. I thought the way Mandy Bohm would drop her hands and kind of give it that little shimmy, that little, little shake she had going. I thought that was going to lead to a 1-2 down the pipe and just a night, But good credit for her because Mandy Bohm did last a lot longer than I was expecting. But, at the end of the day, it did happen. So what were you thinking?
Listen, I completely expected the finish, man, because Mandy Bohm had no head movement. She was just getting cracked. Hands were down the whole time. And the body shots that Lipski was putting on her had her gassed out by round 3, man. Lipski was working the body incredibly. And I'll tell you, this has been leaps and bounds from her last 2 performances. I mean, you get finished in 2 fights back-to-back, come back and have a dominant performance like that is very telling. But this is a question that I also had kind of on the prelims, right? So Erin Blanchfield, she made her UFC debut this week against Sarah Alpar. Too sweet Sarah Alpar, excuse me. And she beat the brakes off of Alpar for all 3 rounds, right? You know, we talked about it. We said, God damn, this was crazy. I was all like, watch out for Alpar, man. Sneaky Dana White contender series sleeper. She got worked. But the point is that the question becomes, and you never want to take away someone's win. You never want to take away credit from somebody, but this felt like maybe Mandy Bohm was B-League, you know what I'm saying? You know, maybe she was just a couple steps down, kind of the same way where Sarah Alpar, it's like we've seen now in her performances, maybe she's just not cut from that cloth, you know what I mean? So I don't want to diminish the victory, but you said it. You're like, this is kind of a gimme for Ariane Lipski, man. You know, I didn't see it that way. I guess I gave a little too much credit to Mandy Bohm because she is a former champion regionally, you know what I mean? She's a tough fighter. But this was a big confidence booster for Ariane Lipski at the end of the day, man. Did it surprise you that Mandy Bohm talked shit about Ariane Lipski's grappling? Didn't really talk shit crazy, but was all like, yeah, she's not very strong. She can't grapple. And then she tried to grapple with Lipski, and Lipski won the grappling exchanges. Did that surprise you at all?
No, but specifically, it would have if I didn't see the interview that she talked about. She was wrestling with Mana Nunes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to all eyes, in her last fights, yeah, Ariane Lipski's wrestling was horrible. Yeah. She got dominated by big sister
Antonina
Shevchenko, who's known as a kickboxer, man. Yeah. She got absolutely dominated by her. So everybody thought, oh, yeah, her ground game is horrible. And then to go get dominated by Montana De La Rosa after that, yeah, kind of makes sense. I mean, De La Rosa is amazing on the ground. So not really surprised since she's been changing it up at AT&T and working with, like I said, the GOAT, Amanda Nunes. But what I was surprised to see, and I thought, like, because in the pre-show I did say that Mandy Bohm, she's a little bit like a regional fighter. She's JV. She's not necessarily ready for the big show. But what I didn't expect to see was her soul get taken out by Ariane Lipski, and that's the first knockdown. Mandy Bohm kind of started to feel herself, and then bap, she got hit with 2 and got sent down. And you really saw her go like, "Oh shit! Like I'm in a fight. Like damn! Like oh my god!" That's what surprised me most about this fight, man. What you think?
Well, that's my favorite right there, is because I saw from Ariane Lipski that look of I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna go across the cage. I'm gonna take your head off, man. Like that look of I'm staring down. Like her eyes looked like she hadn't been sleeping well in a couple days, man. Like she was looking kind of rough. So I was just like, okay, man, she's coming ready. You know what I mean? She's ready to rock on this one. Mandy Bohm laughing, smiling, doing all that stuff, man. And it's cool when it works, man. But when it doesn't, you look disinterested. You look disengaged, and you kind of make a mockery of your performance, man. You just got your UFC debut right here and you got worked like that. What's going to make you think they want to give you another shot? How do you know you're not just going to get cut? It obviously depends on the contract that you signed, but at the end of the day, this was not a very good showing. I hope that she can bounce back from this because Mandy Bohm has a nice jab. And last thing that I want to point out on this one is that Mandy Bohm used that jab, but she used that jab like we saw Macy Barber, use it. I don't remember who she fought, man, but where she was just jabbing to like thin air, you know what I mean? Like not even close to actually popping her opponent with the jab. And this is the same thing that Mike Rodriguez did against Stefan Nchukwu, man, you know what I mean? Where like they're throwing the jab, but you're not nearly in range to land it. So you're just wasting energy at this point. And Ariane Lipski is just countering you. Every time you throw that jab and you pull your hand back or pull that hand back from that jab to your face, she's coming in hooks, multiple, punch combinations. So, more volume for Mandy Bohm would be nice, but this was a big win from Ariane Lipski, man. Big confidence booster, and this was a job-saving victory, in my opinion, man. So big win for the Queen of Violence. Still not a really big fan of the nickname, but you know what I mean? I guess we'll take what we can get. She got it, word on the street from the broadcast, that she got it from her Polish KSW days, that the fans gave it to her. I don't really know how that works, but big win regardless. All right, man. For the co-main event, AJ, neither of us hit on this one, man. We both missed big on Devin Clark versus Ian Kutalaba. But I'll tell you what, man. In the past, I've criticized Cutelaba because I have felt that he fights too emotional, right? You know what I mean? Against Magomed Ankalaev, the killer, the future light heavyweight champion. I keep crowning him here. Hopefully he gets a shot one day, but I think that was the problem with him. First fight, gets too emotional, tries to storm across the cage before the fight, gets knocked out. How embarrassing. You come back, all right, I have to avenge myself, get knocked out again. How super duper embarrassing, you know what I'm saying? You come back, he gets the dub in his next fight, then fights this one. And listen, man, who would have expected? I know that he did Greco-Roman growing up, and he's a combat sambo guy and a judo guy, but I did not expect him to work Devin Clark on the feet and on the ground in this matchup, man. I told you Devin Clark always looks uncomfortable on the feet. He looked uncomfortable on the feet on this one. That's what really lost him in the fight. But the thing that was the X factor that really gave him no chance is that when he looked to do the wrestling exchanges, Cutelaba just put it on the man. He looks so scary, man. And they're saying bald, bearded Ian Kutalaba. That's the mythical fighter, AJ. What do you think?
Absolutely mythical fighter, man. He looked like a completely new fighter too.
Yeah.
Very calm, very composed, and strong. Like in the exchanges, he looked like he wasn't even sweating too much. Obviously, he was sweating, but he didn't look like it was that hard for him. Or like I expected a lot more resistance from Devin Clark, and it was kind of Cutelaba was throwing him around a little bit. It was very impressive to see, and I didn't see it coming at all, my man. That's why I made him fighter of the night for me, man. Very impressive win for Cutelaba.
Did you get any deer in the headlights type vibes from Devin Clark in this fight?
Yes, and even before he got cracked in the mouth with that knee, I was still seeing that deer in the headlights. Like he was definitely expecting to out wrestle Cutelaba, and once he felt his power, once he felt kind of what was going on, he's like, "Oh shit! Like, all right, well, it's gonna be a long one tonight, boys."
Speaking of that, man, so I felt like this was one of those moments where Devin Clark just overestimated his abilities. I honestly believe that, because even when they're introducing himself, Ian Kutalaba, he walks up and he goes, does all that. Devin Clark was looking at him, he was all like, look at that funny guy, right? And for folks just listening, I'm impersonating, he's doing the throat slash and all that, just like mocking Kutalaba in a way. And then you end up the fight, with the photo that I showed, right, where dude's got his teeth smashed. Here, I'll bring it up again. Look at that. Dude's teeth is pushed back and all that. Yeah, viewer content warning or whatever. But so you go from talking mess, doing all that stuff, to having to basically fight for your life and determine whether you're going to give up on the stool or not, man. So with that being said, hats off to Ian Kutalaba, man. Like I said, do you think there was some revelations, man? Obviously, tough losses make you ask some tough questions, man, and go to the drawing board and say, what the hell is going on? Why am I not winning these fights? You know what I mean? Dude is putting on for his country of Moldova, man. He's one of the very few to represent that country, so there's additional pressure there. But do you think it was just like a psyche change, a mental change, man? Because physically, everything is still the same right there. It's just he's approaching the game differently, and he's utilizing and leaning on his wrestling more than ever.
It looks like it, doesn't it? It looks like he's had not just a strategy change, but a mentality change as well. Because don't get me wrong, his gas tank is always going to be in question, but he answered some questions going forward because he was still gassed at the end of the fight. Like when he was having his interview, you could tell he was still thinking. It was hard. He was breathing hard. So the gas tank is still there, still an issue, but he was able to control it, which mind over matter on that one, because I'm sure he was hurting. But yeah, no, it looked like he actually was able to make that mental change. And I forgot, I don't have his numbers up right now, but I know before he got into UFC, and even for a little bit in the UFC, he was streaking. He was doing well. He was on a dub streak until he started to hit the upper echelon of the fighters. So I'm sure it had to be a realization of something going forward that actually mattered to him, which is good to see in a fighter, man. You don't see it a lot of times.
Absolutely, man. So I will say this is his first decision win since 2016, man. This is actually his first win, I believe. Or not his first win, but first couple wins since 2019, right? He was on a pretty rough streak or whatever. But first decision win since 2016. I don't know what the odds on him winning via decision were. They're probably pretty crazy because most people most likely did not expect that. I thought Clark would get it done via decision, but shows what I knew on this one. Ian Kutalaba did close his -140 favorite, so clearly the odds makers. This is something I talked about. I was like, the odds are a little crazy on this one, man. But odds makers knew knew something we didn't. Maybe they understood that Devin Clark on the feet, still a work in progress, man. But third round, Devin Clark. I mean, that's when you started to see Cutelaba for a quick second be like, hold on, what are you doing, bro? I thought I already... That's the one thing that you start to see, right, is when he starts putting it on somebody and then someone starts coming back, kind of doesn't know what to do. Just like, oh, shit, yeah, okay, I guess I got to fight for my life here. So for Devin Clark to finish the fight in an advantageous position, which he did, I think that kind of gave him a little bit of a moral victory. At the end of the day, big win for the Hulk, man. Moves to 16-6-1. And listen, he's calling out Anthony Smith, man. Not going to get it, but I mean, listen, use your opportunity when you got it, man. And speaking of Anthony Smith, all right, man, Lionheart, we talked about it in the beginning of the show, in the intro, man. Talk shit, get hit, man. This is an old school OG of the game, and Daniel Cormier said it best. He said, listen, man, I don't mind when you go off like Anthony Smith went off after he defeated Ryan Spann, where he's screaming at him, talking a bunch of shit and whatnot, because when you talk mess like Ryan Spann did, you're going to have to deal with those consequences, and Anthony Smith is a true OG of the game, and he does not play that, man. He said it. He's like, listen, I've fought a million Ryan Spanns. He's never fought nobody like me. On the feet, Anthony Smith looked patient. He looked like his boxing was crisp. He looked like everything that he did, he was a step ahead of Ryan Spann, and he said that in his post-fight presser. And he was humble too. He says, hey, Ryan Spann did all the right things. I was just a step better tonight, man. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Did you envision Ryan Spann getting, chicken-legged the way that he did? He did the chicken dance. Because Anthony Smith put it on him on the feet. Did you anticipate that and him getting... submission, that wasn't too far-fetched, right? But to do it in the way he did it, did you expect any of that?
I did not expect the chicken legs, Derick, especially because Ryan Spann got chicken legged a couple times. And I believe it was either the first or the second one was from a jab. Yeah. He stuffed him with a jab, and I was like, oh, shit, like... Anthony Smith's got some power to him, damn. And I think it was one of those where Ryan Spann didn't see it coming and just got cracked on the button. But no, I didn't. I definitely saw the submission, did not see it, definitely did not see the finish in round one at all.
Yeah, man. What does this say to you? Like, how is your viewpoint of Anthony Smith? How has it changed, right? Because clearly he loses to John Jones and he becomes look at this guy. He gets to the pinnacle, but he can never really win the big fight. He's kind of the gatekeeper, right? This is his third win in a row and his 10th stoppage victory in a row, man. He finishes everybody. I believe he's finished like 32 of 35 fights, man. Like, this dude is a killer. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we have to then adjust where we put him, because I think the man's title window is wider than ever at this point. I was like, the title window hasn't quite closed in the last fight. Now that thing is skyrocketed up. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. His title options now look almost better than when he had it when he was going towards John Jones. I think they just threw Anthony Smith in a little, maybe not a little early, because he could have won that fight. He was losing for sure until he got cracked in the head with a knee. Yeah. But I think his game and his mentality is a lot better than it was before, and he's able to actually kind of not savor the moment, but think it through, if that makes sense, where he's able to make decisions on stuff instead of just be in the fire and kind of crazy. So I think there's actually a better look for Anthony Smith now than it was before. He might have a better shot at winning this one coming up, man.
I agree, and he's not even calling for the title. He says, I want a rematch. I want Rakic again. Give me him again, man. And I loved it because this is the stuff that I tell you about all the time, how it's not personal, right? He says, listen, man, no bad blood towards Rakic. He has his number, and I want it. He took my number. I want to take my number back, and it's as simple as that, man. So I'm like such a big fan of that because it makes sense, right? Hey, man, you're number 3. I want number 3. Listen, nothing against you. I want the number. Fight me for it, and let's find out, So I respect that. I respect that Anthony Smith had to do what he had to do, and he had to fight somebody that was 5 spots below him in the rankings. A lot of these fighters are like Dominic Cruz, for an example. He's like, no, I don't want to fight down. I only want to fight up. Well, everybody wants to fight up, man. You know what I mean? You don't really get a choice in the UFC like that. But this was, listen, man, submission round 1, rear naked choke. Listen, Smith closed as a minus 160 favorite, man, so this wasn't too surprising. I'm just, like I said, specifically surprised because the aura of Ryan Spann, his soul got taken very quickly in this fight. Very, very quickly. And now my question to you is this irreparable damage right here, AJ, man? Has this completely tainted and cracked Ryan Spann's his bravado in a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, the next fight, do you think he comes back the way that he came back after Johnny Walker lost and decided to just start, smash people again? Or is it just like, oh shit, I just got ran through by Anthony Smith, a man who I was discounting and talking shit against? What do you think?
I think this one's a lot harder of a loss than the Johnny Walker loss. The Johnny Walker one we were talking about in the pre-show was just a little bit of a fluke. You know, he caught some elbows to the ear. You know, it is what it is. This one is more of a dominating loss where he actually legitimately lost the fight and there was no way of him winning it. Yeah, to see him come back and not change would be very surprising. To see Spann not have that aura kind of a little bit off would be would be very surprising to see it not happen. I hope he doesn't though. I hope he stays true, you know, stays undefeated in his mindset because he is a good fighter. I just don't think he was ready for the caliber of Anthony Smith. Yeah, kind of how Anthony Smith got thrown into the fire against John Jones and those top opponents early. Mm-hmm. I see the same thing for Ryan Spann. Yeah, at this moment anyway.
I'm with you. Anthony Smith just gave me Glover Teixeira vibes, you know, and I know Glover put it on Anthony Smith, but just the way that we just keep counting out Glover and he just keeps finishing everybody, you know what I mean? It's just like, y'all must have forgot, bro. So shout out to you. Shout out to the Lionheart. You put on for the OGs. You put on to the veterans, man. And you go to show that, listen, this isn't just a young man's game. I mean, Anthony Smith is only 33. That's the craziest part, right? Is that he's only 33. The man already has 51 career fights. He's won 36 of the 55. Big win. I don't know what else I could say about that. So that capped off the fourth of the 4 performance bonuses. And before we do a little bit of matchmaking and all that fun stuff, AJ, I just want to give a couple of highlights. Or actually, let me go back to the recap. I just want to give out a couple of highlights really quickly about some things that happened on the prelims, man. Our guy, not necessarily our guy, but JP Baez, man. JP Baez, right? Listen, valiant effort against Montel Jackson, but Montel Jackson is a problem, man. That man is a killer. His hands are the biggest things I've ever seen in my life. So are his feet. And fighting at 135 pounds, man, it's just a big problem. I feel bad for JP Baez because that was a mismatch from the jump. But valiant effort overall, man. Do you have any comment on that?
That was a rough one, Derick, because JP Baez at the beginning of the fight, I thought he was going to do a lot better than he did, and then he just kept getting dropped, and it was hard to see because he would literally get dropped and accept it, just stay on the bottom, like, all right, like what happened? Yeah, rough one for him, man.
I think he has a little bit of a chin problem, man, because that was the Bruno Silva repeat, right? Bruno Silva just dropped him. I think he got dropped like 3 times in that fight. So to get dropped 4 times and for Montel Jackson to set the bantamweight UFC record for dropping opponent most times in a single fight with 4, man. I mean, that says something, you know. So this is one of those situations where when you come in with your wife and both of y'all are battling for fame and, you know, this happens, it just, you never want to see it. You know, Baez is coming off the huge knockout win. The other Baez loses. I don't know. It is what it is, man. I already said Erin Blanchfield. She wins her UFC debut. That was a very big win against Sarah Alpar. I would like to see her against a little more stiffer opposition this time around. Carlston Harris, man, my sleeper against Impa Kasanganay. He drops him in the first round, gets him the fuck out of there, man. I will have to say we're going to have to stop sleeping on the man from, where is this man from? He's Guyanese. So take that for what it's worth. Listen, man, I love the Jamaican accent. I love the clubs for hands, man. He's got the thudding shots. He's got the grappling to go with it. This is another setback for Impa Kasanganay, who I do believe is going to make, he'll make great efforts in the 170-pound division. But Carlston Harris, man, you're a mean man. Hannah Goldie gets her UFC debut, or not UFC debut victory, but her first victory in the UFC, man, against a very talented Emily Whitmire, man, who has not had a lot of success recently, man. She trains right here in Las Vegas. I feel bad because she got a lot of promotion behind her, but she just hasn't really seemed to have had too much success in the big show, man. Anything on that?
Hannah Goldie, I was actually impressed with that fight. You could tell she needed it, man. She was in there. She was crying. She needed that win. I was happy to see it, man. Hannah Goldie got a big name behind her, so it was good to see.
And to get it by submission, first career submission victory, come on, man, big time right there. Especially because she was basically getting worked and then pulled an armbar from guard. Come on, what are you talking about? I already said Raquel Pennington. She got the big win. She got her first win since her 6 months USADA suspension, right? So it was first win in a little over, you know what I mean, almost like a year or something. Lastly, man, Zhu Rong. I don't know. I want to make sure I get that one right. At the end of the day, man, I just want to pull note. He defeated Brandon Jenkins, who took this fight on a couple days' notice, man. It was a short notice fight, but he becomes the first fighter in UFC history to get a win who was born in the 2000s, man. Does that make you feel old?
Oh my God. When they said that on the broadcast, Derick, I was in middle school in 2000s. Yeah, maybe around there, middle school, elementary. That's absolutely crazy. This dude is born in the 2000s and he's fighting professionally on TV. Yeah, man, makes you feel old, brother.
I'll tell you, man, when I was in college and I'm watching, when you're watching other college basketball players and you're like, damn, man, that dude's like a year younger than me, or we like the same age or whatnot. Now it's getting to the point where it's like, it's all 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds killing the game and whatnot. And you're like, these young bucks, man, what the fuck oh, man, yeah, I wish we could just freeze time, right? But time waits for no man. So that's a big recap of basically the entire UFC 37 card, man. So once again, folks, drop a like, subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts if you like the content we're putting it out, man, because we got to watch all this stuff. We got to analyze all this stuff, take the implications in hand and flip those implications to do a little bit of matchmaking, AJ, man. So we got a couple of different fights that we got to break down here for matchmaking, but some of these people did our jobs for us, man, which is very, very convenient. So I want to start off with Lionheart, Anthony Smith. He goes from number 6 to number 5, in my opinion. I think he surpasses, let me see, I don't even know who's at number 5 right now, but he surpasses him because he's been on a rough streak. It's somebody that has got 3 losses in a row. Don't remember the name. Maybe I should. It's okay. Alexander Rakic is probably the most common sense one, because Rakic at this point is truly just saying, like, I want to wait for a title shot. He's like, I just want to fight for the title. It is what it is. I think that we should make a true number 1 contender match, or something like that, with either Alexander Rakic or Yuri Prochazka. Both of these dudes are basically just waiting for a title shot, man. I think both of them would be really, really good fights. And you would think Anthony Smith, as an OG veteran, man, has kind of worked his way back up to that queue. Prochazka only has 2 wins in the UFC. And for Rakic, man, I mean, Anthony Smith is on a better win streak than he is right now. So what do you think?
I had Rakic down on this one just because it makes sense to me. I completely forgot about Yuri, though. My boy Yuri Prochazka. I don't know how I forgot about him, but that would be a fight. I don't know, man. I would rather see the Rakic fight just because I'm a fan of Smith and Prochazka. I don't want to see either of them lose their streak so far, but that's a banger as well.
Well, this is how you sell it, man. Prochazka, even though he's only 2-0 in the UFC, he has wins over Dominic Reyes and Volkan Ozdemir, where Anthony Smith, he has a submission win over Ozdemir, and he's on the 3-fight win streak. So you can kind of match those things up and be like, listen, man, I'm on a bigger win streak than you have fights in the UFC, so let's do it, man. True number 1 contender. Fight Yuri for the next title shot, basically, after Blachowicz versus Teixeira coming up next here, man. So I think that makes sense. I honestly don't think there's anywhere else you can go. It'd be a disservice to make the man fight down more than he literally just did. So it'd be a disservice. I hope that he could jump up like that to go fight Alexander Rakic for the number 3 or Prochazka for the number 2. But all right, that one's cool for the light heavyweight division on that one. Next up is number 20, Ian Kutalaba. I don't think he changes much. Where I was looking at it in the rankings, man, I was like, there's not too much room for him to jump up. He beat Clark, who was number 22, but the guys in front of you have done a lot more than you recently. So there's only one matchup. There's only one way I see this playing out for myself personally, so I'm interested to know, who do you think the Hulk should match up with next?
Well, I want to see him really take on somebody who we're going to test his gas tank again. We're going to really see if what we saw in this fight is true going forward. And I want to see him fight the Bear Jew Paul Craig. Okay. I think it'd be a banger of a fight. Paul Craig is very good on the ground as well as standing up. I think it's a good matchup, man. What you thinking?
Well, I love that matchup, and I almost wrote it down. The only reason I didn't is like, can I jump him up that much? I think Paul Craig is like number 12 or number 13 in the division right now. So instead of doing that, I went just a little bit higher, and I'm going to the loser, one of the losers against Paul Craig recently. I want number 14 ranked Jimmy Crute and number 15th ranked Jamal Hill to fight on December 4th, which they are already scheduled to do, and I want the winner to fight Ian Kutalaba. Even though, if you think about it, AJ, does that even make sense? You know what I mean? If anything, maybe Cutelaba should fight the loser, because why would the winner want to say, oh, let me fight a dude who's not even ranked? You know what I'm saying? So that becomes a little problematic. And the top 20 of the light heavyweight division is mainly matched up right now, so it's pretty hard to place Cutelaba at all. But who would you like to see him fight more, Jimmy Crute or Jamal Hill?
Both of them are good fights. I'd like to see him fight Jamal Hill a little bit on that one, just to see how he handles the length, how he handles the distance and the striking. Jimmy Crute's legit, man. If we could see him on the ground game against Cutelaba, I think that'd be an interesting fight as well.
I'd like to see Crute a little bit more than I'd like to see Jamal Hill, because I think Cutelaba, especially in the first round, might be able to just manhandle Jamal Hill. Like, Jamal Hill doesn't have the biggest frame for a light heavyweight, you know what I mean? Jimmy Crute, that's a behemoth of a man right there. And had he not got his knee buckled by Anthony Smith, I think we would have seen a little bit of a different outcome in that fight. I don't know if he would have won or not. I can't say that definitively at all, but I will say I think it would have been a little more competitive for sure. All right, let's move on to the middleweights, man. Numansa, Joaquin Buckley, opened up at number 41. I don't think he's really makes any change because Antonio Hoyo was ranked number 97. You know what I'm saying? So I got a banger of a matchup that makes the most sense, man. I need to definitely get like a matchmaking, you know what I mean, medal for this one just because of how illustrious and glamorous my matchup is. Who do you have, AJ?
I like the way you're thinking, man. Dana, give us a call. Sean Shelby, you already know, man. You've put a couple of our matchmakings on it already. So I hope you're watching because you better pay attention.
Absolutely.
Man, I got a couple that I was thinking. I really want to see how Buckley handles a striker. And, you know, if he can handle just somebody who's a little bit more well-rounded or somebody who's really good on the ground game. You know, somebody that we're not really used to seeing, especially like I said before. Buckley needs that ground game to start going to really handle the people at the upper echelon of the division. So I'd like to see him fight Tom Breeze going forward, man. I think it's a good scrap. Tom Breeze is very well-rounded. Yeah, what you think?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tom Breeze got cut by the UFC. You remember he kept pulling out of fights?
I wish they'd add those up on Tapology, man.
Yeah, no, I think because he pulled out of 3 fights at the last second, literally like stage anxiety type situations that he's pulled out. So that's what happened in his last fight. He pulled out due to like a panic attack or anxiety or something like that. No disrespect at all. It happens, you know what I mean? But I think he got cut from the UFC for that. I would love to see the matchup, though. I'm a big fan of Tom Breeze. If the UFC could give him another chance, I would love that, you know, because dude is game. He just got to show up, man. I'm thinking he fights somebody who is just one spot above him who just came off of a bad losing streak. He just got a win on the board, and he did it in devastating fashion. So he's fresh. He's ready to go, and his name is Abdul Razak Al Hassan, man. I think that it makes sense for this reason, AJ. First off, 2 behemoth men. This is the war of the men with the biggest thighs on the roster, you know what I'm saying? Tree trunk legs. But Abdul Razak Al Hassan, he just knocked out Alicio De Chirico with a head kick. Well, De Chirico just knocked out Joaquin Buckley with a head kick a fight ago. So it only makes sense to put this matchup together. Am I right? I mean, come on. Can the stars align any greater than that?
I think that's poetry in motion right there, Derick. I'm glad you had to lead in with your pick because that's a good one right there, man. That'd be a hell of a fight. You got the quad squad battling each other. Yeah, I'm about it.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. So that would be a fun one. I would love to see that one for sure, especially because they're both, you know, pretty close in the rankings too, man. And I think Buckley, like you said, he needs an additional test because I think Al Hassan, if I'm not mistaken, is like a black belt in judo or something like that. You know what I'm saying? He kind of made his mark in judo coming up. A lot of people don't know that about him because he just throws hands and knocks people's heads off their shoulders. But nonetheless, moving on to the lightweight division. Number 14th ranked Arman Sarukian. He gets no change to me. I don't think he did enough to move up to 13 or 12, beating Yagos, who was number 39. But he basically made our job really easy, man. And he actually picked one who I thought I was going against the grain. I thought I was going kind of sneaky with this one. He ended up actually calling him out on the post-fight presser. So mine are going to be pretty simple, but who do you think, AJ?
Nah, I wanted to see because like I said, man, Sarukian looked like the real deal. But I think it's really time to really jump him up and not necessarily the top 10, top 5. I don't know what my guys rank that I got going forward, but I want to see how well his chops actually are against somebody who's really good at wrestling as well, man. I want to see it. Arman Sarukian versus Gregor Gillespie. Okay. I think it'd be a hell of a battle. Gregor Gillespie doesn't have the best of hands, so we can see, well, he does have really good hands, but not the, you know, top notch. But the wrestling's there. So it'd be cool to see a pressure fighter against another pressure fighter with both of them who are trying to get a little bit of ground. I didn't watch the post-fight presser on Sarukian, so I don't know who he called out. Who you taking?
Well, I like the Gregor Gillespie matchup, man, and I almost picked that one as well. However, I think Gregor Gillespie wouldn't want to fight down that way, man. I think he's done enough to fight his way into the top 10, you know what I mean, with his last big win. So even though I like the matchup, I honestly think, man, he already called out Dan Hooker, right? He's saying, I want to kill Dan Hooker, you know, all that good stuff. I think that'd be a fun matchup. Dan Hooker's ranked number 8. Sarukian number 14, maybe a little higher after this in the UFC's rankings, but in my rankings, he's still, you know, where he is. I think he needs to fight El Kakui, number 6, Tony Ferguson, man. And here's the reason why, AJ. we need to prune out the OGs of the lightweight division. It has to be done. You know what I mean? El Cucuy is a huge name, but he's on a 3-fight losing streak. Clearly, his title hopes are nowhere near where they once were, just a couple years ago. And he should have to fight the up-and-comers in order to keep his ranking, in my opinion. I think Sarukian said it himself. He was all like, Tony Ferguson is basically like the oldest dude on the lightweight top 15. I'm the youngest dude in the top 15. It only makes sense for us to fight, right? So for that reason, and the big platform and the big name that is El Cucuy, that is Tony Ferguson, man. Wrestling matchup is there. The grappling matchup is right there. And then if you want to talk about hands, I mean, Cucuy could strike as well. You know what I mean? So I think it would be fun. If not, give him Dan Hooker. But if not, I actually said, let's go the winner of number 12 ranked Brad Riddell or number 13th ranked Rafael Fiziev, man. The winner of that matchup taking place on December 4th. So we can go anywhere with that, but I want Tony Ferguson the most. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I saw the Tony Ferguson when I was looking at the Tapology rankings, and I just didn't want to throw my dog to the dogs, man.
Yeah,
that's all I thought, man. I was like, man, but I get it. That's what has to happen too. I feel like it's almost needs to be done, especially. Imagine, so Tony Ferguson on the losing streak he has, he loses another one to Sarukian. He might get, bounced down past 10, bounced down past 15. We're just going to start to see the end of Tony Ferguson. But imagine he gets the dub, he gets the knockout, he gets the win on Sarukian. Woo! That's going to be party time for El Cucuy, man. I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah, man. It's at the end of the day, man. It's the people we grew up watching, man. Father Time, undefeated, man. So we can move on to bantamweight, and then we just got one more before we hit a little news wire and get out of here. AJ, number 51th ranked Nate Maness gets no change because Gravely was number 52, so they was basically neck and neck right there, man. You can go anywhere with this one, man. Who do you got?
Man, yeah, you can go anywhere with him. I don't want to throw I don't want to throw another homie to the dogs, but I think you kind of have to, man, especially if you're going to make a name for yourself in the division. He already kind of fought somebody with a little bit of a name. I want to see how he handles a little bit better of a wrestler as well as a little bit better of a striker. So I want to see him fight Umar Nurmagomedov, man. I think it'd be a scrap. Hell of a name to him, and somebody who we could rob a little bit of clout from too, and getting that Maness, that Mayhem Maness, I believe that's his nickname. Mm-hmm. A little bit of shine. What do you think?
Okay, no, it's a fun matchup right there. It's definitely a fun one, and anytime you fight a Nurmagomedov, you're definitely going to get some press behind you, get a little clout on that one. I actually went somebody who just made a big splash recently, man. Got a big win over a name who, to the hardcores, to people like us that watch all of these fights, it was like, goddamn, that was impressive. But he just made his way into the UFC, and his name is number 47th ranked Said Yokub Kakramanov, man. The man who just starched out Trevin Jones. He's a grappler. He can strike, man. I would like to see how he does against Nate Maness, because that's what we need to keep feeding Nate Maness, man. More grapplers who can also strike. We know Nate Maness can strike. We know that about the man. But can you deal with that grappling that Tony Gravely was putting on him a little bit? You know what I mean? Can you deal with that mixed-up approach where 1 second you shooting for sprawling hips back, next second you're caught in a darce? You know what I'm saying? Like, can you deal with that? And I just want to see it, man. I just think it would be an interesting test in the grappling department ultimately. So that sounds like a decent matchup.
I like it. Yeah. I didn't want to match him up with somebody as much of a newcomer, but you gotta get it in wherever you can. I think both of them are very nicely skilled on each standing in on the ground.
Absolutely. And like I said, Kakramanov is just ranked a little bit higher than Maness right there. So it would be a little, get him a little boost in the rankings too. And lastly, for women's flyweight, the Queen of Islands, Ariane Lipski, comes in at number 28, no change. Mandy Bohm was number 64. And once again, I don't remember if this was like a short notice or whatever, or why this got matched up in the beginning. But nonetheless, I got a matchup that isn't going to be fun. On paper, it's not fun. Watching it is probably not going to be fun, but it's the test that Ariane Lipski needs, because you're right, AJ. They gave her a gimme. They gave her the, hey, you want a striker? Okay, do your thing, whatever. Now we back to the, iron, curtain, iron, I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Who do you think, AJ?
Yeah, I'm with you, Derick. I agree. They gave her a gimme, and now it's really time to test her chops on the griddle. I don't know what you're going for, but I know what you're trying to say, my man. And same reason for me. This is why I chose the one I did, man. I want to see how well her ground game has actually improved, because we know the stand-ups decently crisp, and she has a good attitude. But I want to see her fight Molly Meatball McCann, man. Okay. Meatball. I think it'd be a good scrap, and it'd be a pretty challenging one, but not too out there, not too much of a reach going forward. What do you think?
I like that one. And Molly McCann just put on a big performance in her last fight, man. You know, she showed that those the Scousers out there in Liverpool, you know what I mean? They come to fight, man. You know, they got attitude, they got grit, they got tenacity. So I like that matchup, man. I think that would be a fun one. Mine, like I said, it's boring all across the board, man. I want to give her number 26 ranked JJ Aldridge, man. She's a 10-4 grappler who is 6-3 in the UFC. And listen, man, 2 of her losses were versus strikers, man. So this kind of works out because you know the game plan for JJ Aldridge. Oh shit, you good over there?
We good.
All right, cool. So you know the game plan with JJ Aldridge. Get you to the ground and pound you for an easy top control victory, right? Generally speaking, it works for her most of the time. I mean, look, got a 10-4 record. But we also know she has a couple of problems because her 2 losses are versus strikers, man. Strikers can give it to her. So it gives Lipski a chance to win. You're still building up the prospect, but also gives her a pretty tough challenge in front of her. Very close and similar to the Montana De La Rosa fight. Let me run it back basically with a different opponent with the same style and see how you fare now that you've been working with the GOAT, Amanda Nunes at AT&T, all of that, you know what I'm saying? So that one, I mean, listen, man, I know it's boring. I don't even need any critique or feedback on that one, man. I already know what my pick is, but hey, folks, that's the matchmaking for UFC Vegas 37. We got big fights on the horizon, and AJ, man, let's hit a little news wire and get out of here, my man. I only got a couple of things right here. Basically, I only got 2 things I want to hit on really quickly. The first thing is that UFC 268, you know, coming up recently. UFC 266 is next week, right around the corner. International Fight Week, and your boy is going to be there, man. Come on, let's rock. So UFC 268 takes a hit. One of our favorites, GDR, man, the Iron Lady, Germaine de Randamie, is out. She's injured, out of her bout against Irene Aldana at undisclosed injury for GDR, man. She's kind of holding up the division at this point, man. I believe she's number 1 in her ranking right there in UFC bantamweights and whatnot. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's a rough one, especially because she is kind of holding up the division a little bit. I mean, we need to see. It's hard because you don't want to see her go out there, you know, not at 100%. No, none of them fight at 100%, but it's something that's detrimental enough to cause a lack of production. But, you know, you need the division to keep going. I wonder who they're going to get. Did they have they announced that yet?
No, not yet. But whoever it is, it needs to be someone tough because Aldana at this point, she's right there in title contention. You know what I'm saying? So either give her a title shot or give her someone that'll going to get her to the title, man. But GDR, that's just a tough one. This next one, it was a very vague, kind of Instagram post / tweet that was put out by Anthony Rumble Johnson, man. He's out of his Bellator light heavyweight Grand Prix bout against Vadim Nemkov in the light heavyweight, Bellator's Grand Prix, right? And this is what he put. And I just want a quick take on this. In quotes, he says, "I really wish I can go into detail about how ill I truly am. Just know I need as many prayers as I can get, and I'll see you in 2022, God willing. I've never been this afraid of anything in my life, but I've remained strong with the support of friends and family." Very vague, very cryptic message, man. He says it's specifically not COVID related, but there's some type of illness. So, speedy recovery to Rumble Johnson, one of my favorites, man, one of the best to do it in the UFC and MMA in general. Do you have any words on that?
Man, just speediest of recovery, man. That's rough because if it's something like that he's not able to fight through, it's something pretty serious, and I hope it's not too bad, man. Yeah,
absolutely, man. So shout out to Rumble, man. That's basically what we got to say on that one. Lastly, Brendan Allen versus Brad Tavares, man, the mean Hawaiian, added to UFC Fight Night on December 4th, man. So that December 4th card, which I keep talking about, is getting another banger on that one. I just want to say, is that not banger written all over it? Like all in, Brendan Allen versus that Hawaiian, Brad Tavares? What you think?
That's a slugfest if I've ever heard one, Derick. If they had a home run derby for the UFC, these boys would be in it, swinging at each other's heads. Yeah, that's a banger alert right there, my man. All
right on. So that's basically the news wire, folks. This is a pretty slow week. I mean, we already talked about the Yoel Romero and all that good stuff. Pretty slow week, man, but that's okay because next week, man, like I said, we got a stacked card. We got 3 big fights coming up. It was supposed to be 3 title fights originally, I think. Only 2 of them, right? We got Volkanovski versus Ortega for the bantamweight, or what are we at? Featherweight championship right there. We got Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy for the women's flyweight championship. And the return of Nick Diaz, man, versus Robbie Lawler. A rematch that's taken place 17 years in the making, man. 17 years later. I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. Even though I'm going to be there, I'm not excited to watch Nick Diaz fight. This is a man who I basically idolized growing up. He put Stockton on the map. why are we fighting at this age, man? The Nick Diaz years are behind us, man. We had enough time for Nick Diaz to get the 5-year marijuana suspension, fall out of the limelight. His brother Nate Diaz become the new star, fall out of the limelight, and now Nick Diaz is coming back. Like, this is just this is a Yoel Romero to Bellator type situation, man, and I don't like it. What do you think?
That's kind of a hot take right there, Derick.
Yeah.
That's kind of a hot take. I like it, though. I'm excited to see it. I would be less excited if, and I blanked the name of the fighter that just came back. She's a girl, made it like 3 fights ago. Miesha Tate. If Miesha Tate can come back, and we didn't expect that at all. We know Nick Diaz is staying strong. We know he's staying, game ready. He's been helping his brother in camps. I'm interested. I can see where you're coming from. You hate seeing the old dogs, come back. But the good news is he's fighting another old dog in Robbie Lawler. So I think I'm excited for it.
I'm with you. For me, it's more of the, this is someone who I held so closely to the vest. This is one of my inspirations for wanting to do jiu-jitsu, wanting to fight, wanting to do any of that stuff, cover this stuff, is because of Nick Diaz. Not Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz. That's the original Diaz brother that put himself on the map, put Stockton, California on the map, that went into that Robbie Lawler fight saying, "Stockton, motherfucker, what's up, bro?" You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, that was literally a sticking. I'm not from Stockton. I'm from Modesto, California. That's 30 minutes away from Stockton. But my folks have lived in Stockton at points in time. I got homeboys that's from Stockton. Stockton is a place. I'll just say that. It's a place. A lot of prideful people in that place, man. And listen, the Central Valley of California, Northern California Central Valley is a very densely filled fight, spot. Just kind of like out here in Vegas, Henderson, and all that stuff, man. It's just gyms all over the place. People trying to get into the fights, do the whole nine. With all that being said, folks, coverage will be a little bit different, right? You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna try to make our best, make these shows work and whatnot. But I'll be reporting live, man. I'll put my Ariel Helwani hat on for the day, you know what I'm saying, and get it in, folks. So drop a like, subscribe. AJ, it's been a pleasure. Week in, week out. Love doing this, you know what I'm saying? But we got very, very high stakes on the next one because, like I said, I'm on a 3-week losing streak and you catching up, man. So I'm gonna have to protect the lead, bro. So I'm coming for you next week, bro. Come on, we out here doing it, man. Ultimately, folks, that is the show. Hope you enjoyed. We'll do it again next time. All right, folks. Peace.